Live from Lhasa, this is a special broadcast of CCTV News inside Tibet. Well, throughout the week, we will bring you up close to Tibet and tell you stories of the Tibetans, who they are, how they live, why they pray, and where they are heading. Stay with us. Well, we start with the largest Buddha painting ever in the world. Tuesday marks the start of the Shoton festival, one of the most important days for Tibetans believing in Buddhism. Hundreds of thousands of people gathered at the Drepung monastery in Lhasa to pay respect. Han Bin was there for the ceremony and filed this report.
A solemn start for an auspicious day. A chance to talk to the Buddha to pray for a happy life. This is a celebration of faith, tradition, and hope.
This Buddha exhibition of Drepung Monastery has a history of over 300 years. It means a lot to both the pilgrims and the visitors.
After the major ceremony at the main assembly hall, lamas carry the huge Tanka scroll to the exhibition site. It's on the mountainside behind the hall. Slowly, the first glimmer of light appears on the mountain and over the city of more than 14 years of history. The atmosphere is joyous and reverent. Crowds of believers and tourists have come to pray, receive a blessing, and view the magnificent portrait. The giant portrait of Sakya Muni, the founder of Buddhism, is finally unveiled. The masterpiece measured some 400 square meters. Pilgrims flood towards the portrait to pay their respects. They throw white silk cloths called hadas, symbol of purity and devotion, and they walk around the mountain hoping to be blessed.
It's peaceful, it's full of positive power and encouraged me a lot.
For Tibetans, the ceremony is a cornerstone of the expression of their faith, and for tourists, it's an experience of Tibet's profound traditional culture.
Originally, the Buddha exhibition ceremony was purely religious. Today, it has become the opening of the yearly Shoton festival. To this day, the spiritual connection remains strong, a connection that cannot be fully explained in words, but can be felt deeply in Tibetan hearts. Han Bin, CCTV at the Drepung Monastery in Lhasa.
And another correspondent of ours, Wang Mama, is now standing by at the Drepung Monastery where the biggest Buddha show is still going on. Well, Mama, good morning. Tell us about this once every year event for Tibetans. How big a turnout?
Well, Zoya, we do not know exactly how many people are here for this year's Buddha show. Counting will be finalized by the end of the day, but according to monks who live here, they say that they are seeing a much bigger crowd than last year's 220,000. And I think that one thing that's contributing to this is the stairs, the walkway. The white stairs behind me were constructed last year and were broadened and renovated a couple of months ago. They were designed to be painted in Tibetan styles, but somehow that was behind schedule. Well, you know, Tibetans are so devoted to gods. The Drepung Monastery is located 5 kilometers from Lhasa, and it's quite a bit walk. Usually it takes a couple of hours, and a lot of worshippers would set out as early as 1 a.m. So when we arrived here at about 2 a.m. in the morning, there were already crowds of people camping here, waiting for the very beginning of their festival. And you know, it's an amazing experience to be here and to witness this ritual. This is a time when Tibetans worship and pray, and this is also a time when they renew their connection to the past.
Well, Mama, you obviously got there at 2 a.m. and there seems to be a lot of people everywhere from around the world coming to Lhasa, getting up in wee hours just to have a look at the Buddha painting. So what is so special about this?
Well, Zoe, the religious atmosphere here is quite overwhelming. Throughout the morning, we've been hearing horns, we've been hearing monks chanting, and we've been smelling scent of incense. And we've been watching long lines of people walking very slowly up to the huge Buddha painting. And, this is a very amazing experience. And, of course, the most eye-catching part of this ritual is the Buddha painting of the Sakya Muni, the founder of Buddhism. We do not know we do not know when exactly it was created, but we do know that it was made of very expensive materials like goat threads and by great craftsmen.
All right, thank you, Mama, for your reporting from Drepung Monastery. It's like a Mecca experience for Muslims. This is the sacred moment for the Buddhists. Well, the Drepung Monastery is known as the most important Gulapa monastery in Tibetan Buddhism. West of Lhasa, it had housed the Dalai Lamas before the Potala was built. And Han Bin visited the monastery earlier, has this report on the lives of the monks.
Praying to the Buddha. This is how 47-year-old Nawang Chunzeng greets the morning at the Drepung Monastery. It's the first thing he does every day since becoming a monk at the age of 13. Chanting sutras and sitting in meditation like so many before him, Nawang believes learning and practicing the Buddhist doctrines is a lifetime mission.
The significance of chanting Buddhist scriptures is not simply in reading, but in understanding the meanings behind the thinking. Being a good monk is for a happy life and also for your next life.
Nawang says the most costly and precious objects should be given to the Buddha. His own room is simple and tidy, with many volumes of sutras. Drepung is one of the largest Tibetan monasteries with more than 100 halls and rooms. Some 500 monks and lamas live and practice Buddhism here. The monastery has a history of over 600 years and at one time housed more than 8,000 clerics. Inside the Great Assembly Hall, monks come to study and perform rituals. One important ritual is debating the Buddhist scriptures, learning through practice. The debates also serve as a test by which a ranking can be drawn up of how well the monks have mastered the sacred texts. Monks in Drepung lead regulated lives.
Prior to the 1970s, the lack of transport and communication links meant that the Tibetan monks and lamas knew little about the outside world. Today, the internet and tourists from abroad and other parts of China have changed all that.
Nawang says the living standards in the monasteries have been greatly improved, but these changes and the introduction of new media could also distract the young monks from concentrating on their spiritual mission.
There are many choices for one's life. Fame and fortune are only temporary. Choosing to be a monk is to choose a simple lifestyle. Yet it's not an easy choice.
Nawang says that monks should be grateful for life rather than seeking personal gain. Their way to happiness is to study the sutras carefully and pass on the teachings of the Buddha. Happiness in this life and the next. CCTV from Drepung Monastery.
Actually, all across Tibet, the power of religion still runs strong. Many Tibetans follow Tibetan Buddhism. Its spiritual center, Lhasa, means the place of God. It is a destination for millions of pilgrims. For many of them, it is an epic journey made in a very unusual way. Han Peng reports.
It's another day of their journey. These four pilgrims have crawled thousands of miles on their hands and knees from their hometown in Gansu. So far, they've been journeying like this for 2 months and 5 days. Most of them are over 60 years old. Before Gesang Droma set off, her elderly parents tried to change her mind, but she was always confident in her mission.
We encourage each other when we're extremely tired. I pray for my old parents, and I myself have no fear of death, because the Buddha will bless me and protect me in my next life.
It's a spirit summoned by the Tibetan Buddhism. For centuries, the epic pilgrimage is a mission that defines their very existence. Their destination, the heart of Old Lhasa, the Shoton monastery. But how do they survive when conditions get harsh? The answer is simple. One temporary tent provides warmth and shelter for all four, and for substance, a simple barley-based food called tsampa.
Our relatives give us better food and tents when they saw us off, but we didn't bring them because experiencing harsh conditions is a way to show our humility in front of the Buddha.
Before they sleep, a final show of piety to the Buddha, in gratitude for keeping them safe on another day of their journey. Every year, tens of thousands of pilgrims like them leave their home for Lhasa. Well, some eventually made it, some failed, and some even died on the road. But it's the same story about faith being played out all over this Tibetan plateau, along the sky road to their holy land. Hanpeng, CCTV, still 300 miles away to Lhasa.
And my colleague Hanpeng is with me now. Well, Hanpeng, you've been traveling to the north of Tibet, Dangxiong and Nachu, where herdsmen and farmers have been living and working there.
Yes.
How important a part of religion is for their lives?
Well, it's a very important part of their life. The pilgrim we've just watched just now is an incredible journey with many incredible stories. One story that really struck us that they've shared with us is that it's about an old lady. The old lady had been prostrating her way for 3 years from her hometown to Lhasa, the place of the destination of millions of pilgrims. But as she arrived, she was already very, very weak, and she fainted in front of the Drepung monastery, the destination. And some local people saw that and called the ambulance and brought her to the hospital. But when she woke up in the hospital, she was in huge agony. She said she was ready to die in front of the Buddha, but not in the hospital, because she was ready to devote herself to the heaven and in order to seek a better rebirth. So we got to say that their whole life of these devout Buddhists is a journey of faith.
Well, indeed, many of them are devout Buddhists. And also we know the Shoton festival is actually a religious festival in its original sense, but now it is developed into a secular festival. And the Shoton itself means yogurt. What does yogurt fit in here?
Well, it's something like this. For millions of Tibetans, their religious belief, their way of life, their way to see this whole world is all intertwined with each other. This Shoton festival can be dated back to the 11th century, and at the time this festival was purely religious, as you said. At the time, monks believed that it is a crime to kill any life, including small animals like the ants. So in the summer, they spent weeks retreating in the temples in order to protect these small creatures from being trampled to death. So it's a very interesting custom. And at the time, when the Shoton festival came, these monks emerged. They came out from the temple, and local people celebrated and brought them yogurt at the time. So today, the tradition has changed, but the essence of this religious belief hasn't. And the custom of making and eating yogurt at the festival is still kept alive. We visited one rural Tibetan family and have this report. Starting in the early morning, Tibetans in rural Lhasa begin gathering their yaks to prepare to milk them. Despite the hustle and bustle in most other parts of China, people here still live quietly according to their traditional ways. Dajua was born and raised up in a Tibetan village. Like most people here, she makes yogurt during the Shoton festival using nature's gift, the yak, which is found everywhere along the Tibetan plateau. She says every part of the yak is treasured, even its dung is carefully collected by herders.
This high heap is the dung we have collected. It can be used as fuel to heat up the yogurt. Compared to coal or natural gas, it's safer, healthier, and does not pollute the air. It's the most natural way, and so the best way.
But her natural and nomadic lifestyle is slowly changing. This year, she's celebrating the Shoton festival in a brick house instead of her tent she and her people have lived in for generations. And her husband will be absent from the festival for the first time, as he's in the city looking for a job.
In the city, you make far more money than raising cattle and sheep here.
But even though Dajol is cooking the yogurt all by herself this year, she's staying true to the traditional recipe. Homemade and free of any chemical additives, it takes hours to grind the yak milk into necessary elements.
Then, using the yakdang as fuel, it'll be heated up before being placed under the shade for almost a day to cool down. Only then will the yogurt be ready to serve.
We cannot live without yogurt. It's very important for our health.
Dajo's children share her enthusiasm for the Shoton festival, and she takes great care to ensure their customs are passed on.
China's urbanization is reaching far and wide, and it is now even impacting this most remote land of Tibet. But as this region is being pulled into modernization, people are hoping that the traditional customs could be kept alive. Han Peng, CCTV, Tibet.
These days, yogurt is still an indispensable part of Tibetans' life, and it's homemade, it's natural, it's free of any chemical additives. It's one of the best food for Tibetan people.
Well, that's the appeal, the way of life for Tibetans. Thank you very much, Han Peng. And that is our special coverage on Tibet for today. Tomorrow, we will tell you how the environment in Tibet has been changing and bring you pictures of the highest place in the world. I'm Zhou in Lhasa.